Welcome back to another episode of Four Down Territory. My name is Mars. Alongside me, as always, is Sam. But this week, it is different. It is our first video podcast. It's about time, Sam. It's been, 3 seasons of us doing this? So it's about time we see each other when we do it.
Yeah, I think in your words you said, I want to see just how sad you are about the Chiefs beating the Ravens this week. So you thought, let's get the videos in this week.
Perfect timing.
And then I can see the big smile on your face with the way the Broncos played last night.
Absolutely. This was the whole plan. This was the plan all along. No, but I was thinking the last time we actually saw each other for a podcast was, I believe, episode 30.
Wow. Yeah, it's going to be a long time.
So
Wow.
we are now, over 80 episodes in, approaching 90. So it's about time that we actually saw each other when doing the podcast. So that's pretty good. Let's start it off traditionally with Stat of the Week. Sam, hit me with
Stat of the Week. So I've got here the New York Giants, which I feel like, did I do Giants last week? I think I did, didn't I?
The Giants are constantly on your mind.
We're on a Giants theme at the moment, aren't we? Well, the Giants have drafted 6 wide receivers and tight ends in the first 2 rounds since 2014, Miles. That would be Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, Evan Engram, Kadarius Toney, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Malik Neighbors. Do you know that 5 out of 6 of them have suffered season-ending injuries at MetLife Stadium?
So bad.
Right, and it's less about the stat and more about the conversation, Mars. Like, Malik Neighbors is obviously a torn ACL out for the season, and it's very clear this is a turf issue. This is the same thing we see a million times, planting badly, knee buckles. Odell Beckham's injury was nearly 10 years ago now.
Yeah. 2016 he did it.
Yeah. We're still having to have the conversation about should we have turf? I think it's disgraceful that we're even still having to think about the fact that turf is an issue, because it shouldn't be an issue. We should know by now every team should be playing on grass. There's scientific evidence, there's research, studies, everything to say that turf significantly increases the likelihood of these injuries, these long-term injuries, career-affecting injuries, and yet it's still happening. And especially you look at the Giants, man. Giants have the MetLife Stadium's got 2 teams playing there. 2 teams who have to spend their home games on a field that is, got a direct uptick in injuries because they can't have a grass field. They just need to sort it out. It's disgraceful.
It's crazy that we're talking about billion-dollar organizations and they still can't put player safety as their paramount important. That should be the first thing they're worried about. But no, we're still having teams, both LA teams, they obviously use turf. We've got Seattle obviously use turf. Atlanta use turf. There's so many teams around the NFL that still do use it. But what doesn't help is that obviously Tyreek Hill's injury actually came on grass last night as well. So it's that's what they'll use for the argument.
Yeah.
They'll use that for the argument. They'll say, well, it doesn't matter.
So different though.
It is
so
completely.
Different
He's was completely forced on from a player landing on him, whereas Malik Neighbors was him literally just jumping on the turf.
It's the difference between non-contact injuries and contact injuries.
Absolutely.
I think Tyreek Hill's injury, it was a freak accident almost. I think, some argue that the tackle didn't need to be made. He was going out of bounds. Some argue that it's Tyreek Hill. He's a speedster. He's going to get out of any little gap, no matter how much space you give him. So you've got to make sure that he's down. But yeah, I think I don't know how you can make that comparison, because a injury while being tackled is very different to just trying to jump for a ball.
I've seen
it's disgraceful.
I've seen a lot of people on Twitter trying to make the argument that there's no point in changing. And it's just like, come on. That's just 2 injuries that have happened within the same week. Yeah. We could go back season after season, and the majority of ACLs occur while on that turf. So, and MetLife is just cursed in general.
Yeah,
it's a stadium that it must claim at least an ACL or Achilles once a season. We obviously look at Rodgers did it.
Yeah.
We've seen... Jalen Phillips did his there.
Yes, he did.
There's so many occurrences of Achilles and ACLs happening there. So a change needs to be made. I'll be positive with mine.
Thank you. I felt like I was getting a little bit depressing there.
Let's talk about Drake May.
Okay.
Drake May has had a 75% completion percentage and thrown 2 touchdown passes in 3 consecutive games.
Lovely.
The only player in NFL history with the longest streak within a single season is Tom Brady. And the players that have done it within a single season, so obviously Drake May's done it 3 times. The only other players who have done it are Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning again, and Kurt Warner. And then in every single one of those seasons, that player has gone on to win NFL MVP.
Wow.
So book it now. Drake May is your NFL MVP.
Just check those odds real quick. Yeah. I mean, it's good company to be in, isn't it?
It is. But I think on every single one of those seasons, the team's either 4-0 or 3-1, and obviously Drake May sat there with a 2-2 record. So.
I think it's hard because we wanted to see the Patriots surprise people this year with come out the blocks firing. Mike Vrabel's come in; they're going to instantly revolutionise the team, and they're going to be pushing on to the playoffs. It's going to be a longer project than that. I was quite hopeful. I had them as the 8th seed? I want to say, or was it the 7th seed? I can't remember.
Wild card, I think.
I can't remember, but it's ambitious. It's still a long season. There's still time for them to get it sorted. But the good news is when you've got a quarterback like Drake May, that's always your first building block. It's always getting a nice quarterback, franchise quarterback. We've seen it with so many teams where all it takes is that good quarterback, and then you can, flip the franchise around. So
yeah, I mean, you look at the reassurance that Patriots fans now have that they have, they've been through Matt Jones, they've been through Cam Newton, they now have a competent quarterback, that being Drake May. It builds so much potential for the future. But also, you said that they are on the cusp of being a wildcard team. I think, it's time to double down and say there will be a wildcard team. You look at the state of the other AFC teams, the ones that are challenging for a wildcard at the moment. The Bengals, who we both predicted would be in the wild card, that's obviously not going to happen now with the state of injuries. They're not going to be without Joe Burrow till probably December. Miami Dolphins, we've put our hate on the Miami Dolphins enough this season, but they only got their first win this week. The AFC West is probably where you're going to get the most competition of the wildcard positions. There's still the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Broncos that could push there. So the Patriots are well in the conversation. They're definitely a team to keep an eye on as well.
Absolutely. They could sneak their way in, couldn't they?
Absolutely. Right, let's talk about this week's NFL action. We'll start with Thursday Night Football. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Arizona Cardinals 23-20. It's quite a boring game until the fourth quarter really came around. That's where both teams started to cook.
Yeah, classic case of the game coming alive late on. This was one of those weird things where we often say there's not much talk about the game and more about individual stories going on throughout the game. So I've got a couple. First one going off Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison Jr., I should say, obviously. I think you'll recall I was watching the game in 40 Friday morning, and just into the first half, I came into the chat and said, "What was it? Oh no, he's a bust. I can't believe he's fallen. What happened to him in college? He's looks horrible." And then immediately he has these big contested catches in the third and fourth quarter, and I'm thinking, "Okay, pass judgment too quick. My bad." He's so up and down, but I think we're jumping the gun. I've got to stand true. I've got to stand true on one perspective, and I'm going to go on the side of, give him space to breathe. He's not the stud we were hoping he would be instantly out of college, instant impact, but there's still a player. Those back shoulder throws from Kyler were great, and he makes those jump balls. So hopefully he can make his career out of that kind of receiving archetype. And we see a bit more success from him this season. This might be a good jump start for him, where he had that tough first half, came out in the second half and played fantastic, and hopefully that'll set the stage for the rest of the season.
I think Marv's just has the perception from all NFL fan bases that we're obviously going to hate on you because of your past history. We look at obviously Marvin Harrison Sr., how successful he was, then that's the standard that you need to live up to. But Marvin Harrison Sr. didn't start off like a rocket either. I still think there's an elite wide receiver there. I still think he can be dominant for years to come. He had 2 drops that resulted in interceptions. That's it's not great, but look at how he was able to build on the game. He finished very strong. He actually gave the Cardinals life at the end of the game, which was really good. But you could talk about both young receivers that play for both teams, Jackson Smith and Jigba as well. I say it every single week. He is so damn good. Obviously, 79 receiving yards this season. Puts him over 400 already. He's on pace for a 2,000-yard season. It's, he's absolutely fly. I'd love to see it happen, but I can't talk enough about this man.
he's doing it all without a real standout offensive coordinator and quarterback duo,
Yeah.
really, as well. Like, we usually talk about, like if we look at Puka Nakuru's over there picking up unbelievable numbers as well. He's got Stafford and Sean McVay. We talk about these receivers that have that duo, that offensive masterclass that can propel them to the next height. Darnold's playing pretty well. He's playing good. But I think if we're being real, JSN, he's hardly in a top 5 situation offensively, but he's making the most of it.
Absolutely. With Darnold, there's some serious conversation. Like, you look at the start they had last season, and it kind of fell off towards the end of the season. There was a lot of blame going on Darnold. We look at this season, he's so poised within the pocket, and there's been a lot of criticism on this Seattle offensive line. I think particularly the right guard, who's had some calls out for spinning around and facing the wrong way on certain plays. But Sam Darnold's done fantastically with the situation that he's in.
The thing I'm so impressed with is where he's getting through his reads. They talked about it multiple times on commentary, where you can really see him establishing his footwork. He's looking right, middle, left. He's finding his way through his 3 reads, and getting his feet set, delivering strikes. I think they're the most impressive plays from him, where he's really having to work hard to stay in the pocket, stay upright, and like I say, get his feet set and fire a ball downfield, because that's what he's doing really well. Even for finding his check down, finding his tight end across the middle. There was a couple of big throws in that game just to keep the chains moving, where he's really having to work hard to find his open receiver, and it's great to see.
Let's move on to the first international game, Sam. We have the Vikings losing to the Steelers 24-21 in Dublin. I'm not going to try and do an Irish accent. I saw the funniest tweet that was, Mike Tomlin is the type of guy to have 12 in blackjack and stand and still get the win. He just plucks out wins time and time again and gets so damn lucky. But you can't doubt this defense. It's carrying the team through wins, and that's what's needed most.
Yeah, they're playing very well on the defensive side of the ball. What I thought you were going to say is one of the tweets I saw is Irish fans going home thinking Kenneth Gainwell's a top 5 running back. So
not wrong.
He played fantastic, didn't he?
Absolutely.
He looked unbelievable, patient, burst to get to the second level, reading his blocks really well, finishing plays strong. Jaylen Warren, was he a game time decision? Because I didn't even see.
He was a game time decision, because there was the joke of American fans waking up and it was like sprinting to the waiver wire. The fact that, Kenneth Gainwell or Caleb Johnson could be the number 1 back going into this game. But, they both stepped, Kenneth Gainwell certainly stepped up, plus 20 touches in the game, over 100 yards. That's exactly what you want to see.
Absolutely. The game got off to a flyer, didn't it?
It did.
Jalen Ramsey's, as we thought, fumble 6, where I don't know if you saw, I was watching the game. Jordan Mason was running fantastic in that first drive, and you see him bounce this run to the outside, and I was like, oh, Jordan Mason's running well. I looked down at my phone, and I looked back up, and I was like, wait, why has Jalen Ramsey got the ball? It's just like, what's going on there?
It was a very good strip. I just feel like Ramsey, it's always going to be Ramsey at this point. I just looked up at the screen. You just see 5 running down the sideline. It's like, for God's sake, why him? But he'll always be in the right position. He's got
nose for the football.
Exactly. He's that type of player that's just always in the right position for it. My favorite
got called back.
It was unlucky. But my favorite moment from the game is just Aaron Rodgers smelling the salt and just firing a dart straight to DK. Mate, that was just one of the most aura plays you've seen in this NFL season.
You want to talk about aura plays on par with the hands on hips, QB or tight end sneak.
So good. He knew. When you've got players like, Darnell Washington going over the line, the size of him is like...
He played a lot of snaps this week. He played a ton of snaps. They were very key on running the football and playing that power offense where they're just going to say, we're going to be bigger than you, we're going to be stronger than you. Darnell Washington was in the game a lot. Even 3 catches, which is, I feel like we don't often see. We seem to get like one a game, it feels like, and it'll be such a big thing when he finally gets the ball in his hands. And he especially had one in the flats, and I remember the commentators make a big deal about how hard he was to tackle, and he was like pinned by the sideline, and he was still just fighting through contact. It's such a good watch. He's he is basically a sixth, like a very agile offensive lineman.
I mean, what is he, 6'8", like
something crazy.
250 pounds or
He's a
something
big boy.
ridiculous. Yeah,
He's a big boy.
we've got to talk about Carson Wentz because I
Yeah.
think there is cause for concern for the Minnesota Vikings in the quarterback position. I don't know if JJ McCarthy is going to be playing next week in London, but I certainly can say that Carson Wentz holds onto the ball way too long. There's too many times where he's taking unnecessary sacks. He's had a full week to prepare. I think he was the known starter for a while. But, he's definitely on the higher end of backups in the NFL. But
100%.
I still don't feel confident with Carson Wentz leading the line there.
He's a funny guy because, like there'll be one play at the start of the drive where you just see one of those situations. Oh God, he's holding on to the ball. Oh, he's fumbled it. Okay, thank God, offensive line's recovered. Okay, we're fine. And then it'll be like 3rd and 12 later in the drive, and you'll see him avoid one sack, step up, throw an absolute dart over someone's shoulder. And we saw it. There were 2 big throws in this game where they were basically the exact same thing, where he steps up the pocket, sort of drifts out to his right, and just on the run fires a ball across the middle. And it's one of the most beautiful plays in football. He's got such a nice, throwing. I hate saying animation because I know animation's not the right word.
Throwing motion,
like the kind of the mechanics of it all. Are just fantastic. And he did that. And you see plays like that, and you're thinking, there's still the ceiling. There's still that Carson Wentz ceiling. Unfortunately, the floor's a lot lower now. Is the way I'd probably describe Carson Wentz, and he's constantly just pinging between the two. But he didn't play too badly. Definitely came alive in the second half,
and that's what they
the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they needed some sort of rejuvenation. It just wasn't enough to get over the line for the win. Let's move on to the 6:00 slate. We had the Falcons beating the Commanders 34-27. Michael Penix ruining Marcus Mariota's return game to Atlanta. I thought it'd been really cool if he got the win there.
Yeah.
But I need to eat my words because Drake London. I was hating on him last week. It comes out and has a career game, 110 yards at a receiving touchdown, and shows why he is a dominant receiver in the NFL.
He still is. They just need to get him the ball.
They do.
They just got to get more accurate. Penix, you got to be accurate. Get him the ball because he can make plays. He made some really, really nice catches, tough sideline catches, contested catches, and a 100-yard game from him is awesome. But, he shared that with a 100-yard receiving game with Bijan, who's still their leading receiver, I believe, because he's still making plays everywhere. Yeah. He's fantastic. He's so hard to tackle as well. That rushing touchdown was awesome. That was just perfect contact balance, shrugging off tackles.
I think that just sums up Bijan, doesn't it? Yeah. He is just the athletic freak at running back where players just cannot bring him down. But I completely agree with what you said with Michael Penix. The key for him is just staying accurate. You look at that, he looks a completely different quarterback compared to this week and last week at the Carolina Panthers. There's obviously still the interceptions that they're always going to be around, but are we starting to see like a Jared Goff only dome quarterback type player that, Michael Penix is only going to get wins in a dome is what it feels like.
I wonder, yeah. On the Washington side, I feel like the Krosky Merritt hype's died now.
Yes.
I feel like he's still playing all right, but we were really hoping to see him just explode out of nowhere. It's quite clear this is a shared backfield, and they're definitely disadvantaged without Jaden Daniels. I mean, obviously they are, but it's we're looking forward to getting him back because he'll make this Washington team much more competitive again.
I think the backfield is a big question mark now. Obviously, no Austin Eckler, and questions need to be raised of who is, because you can have a committee backfield, but one runner still needs at least 15 touches a game. And, the Commanders aren't giving that to anyone at the moment. You look at Rodriguez, probably had about 10 touches in total. Same with Bill. Jeremy McNichols doesn't see any of the ball at all. But I'd like to see, even Bill just come out and be, right, let's give him 15 touches, and then Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols can just share the remaining 10 or something like that. I much prefer seeing a dominant rusher. You look at the Falcons; they have a committee backfield, but no one actually realizes it. The snap share is so similar for Bijan and Algier. It's just when Algier's in the game, it's pass block, and when Bijan's in the game, if they're passing, he's running a route and probably going to get the ball. So, the Falcons do it in a very good way.
And it helps that Algier's probably the best RB2 in the league, I would say. He's definitely top 3. I mean,
a 1,000-yard rusher, yeah.
Exactly. His touchdown was fantastic. And the fact that you can sub out Bijan and still have the luxury of running the ball effectively because he's just that good.
Do you feel like... Because he's probably got, 2 years left on his deal, Algier?
Maybe 1 year.
Maybe even 1 year. I could easily see him going to like. Oh, I was going to say the Carolina Panthers, but I forgot about Chuba Hubbard. But you could see him going to like the Pittsburgh Steelers or someone like that and becoming the RB1 there.
Yeah, he'll be one of those guys that gets I'd say a small deal. Like he's not going to get paid big time, and then really surprise people with his output.
Let's move on to, well, we'll quickly touch on the Bills versus the Saints. The Bills obviously won 31-19, but it wasn't as smooth sailing as it probably should have been. They were 15-point favourites going into the game, but Spencer Rattler tried to make it interesting at the end.
Yeah, it's silly. It went down to the wire, did it? It didn't feel like that. It felt like we were always confident the Bills would pull out with a win, but they still had it a little bit tight in the third quarter, didn't they? And the interception on Josh Allen, they're very rare these days.
Yeah, first one of the season.
Yeah, there you go. James Cook, though, still balling out. I feel like we say it every week. But the Saints, it's nice to see them being competitive. We were a bit worried that they were just going to get steamrolled every week and it was going to be a boring watch, and they were going to be one of those teams where it's like, oh, let's just
it's a guaranteed
pick
win.
our parlays on
the
on the team playing the Saints this week. But it's nice to see them being a bit competitive. And Spencer Rattler, he's an interesting guy to watch because I will say one of the worst things I saw in this game was it the 2-point conversion, or was it like a fourth and goal? I can't remember.
I think it was 2-point when they made him rush.
Yeah, because they obviously had that play. It was like two tight end sets to the left, and they motion the two out. They motion them both out, and then they go to motion Kamara out the backfield, and then Bills call a timeout. You've got them worried. They're like, "Oh, I don't like what we're seeing here. Let's have a look at that again." They run the exact same play, and it's like they do all that motion, two tight ends to the left, Kamara out the backfield to run power with Spencer Rattler. Like
it was weird that they just flipped it, especially after the timeout. It's like the Bills have called a timeout because they've recognised the play that's coming and they're going to adjust their defense to that play. Fair enough. But then to go out, they've adjusted to the play and just flip the play is stupid, in my opinion.
I just couldn't believe that. They're obviously trying to say to the Bills, "We're going to pass it. We're going to pass it. We're going to pass it." No, it's a run. It just didn't work in the slightest, did it? As soon as I saw Rattler going forward, I was thinking, he's not pushing any sort of pile forward, is he? Like, what are we expecting him to move?
Yeah,
he can get arm tackled by Ed. Ed Oliver
could
just grab him with his palm and just push him back. Yeah,
I wouldn't trust Spencer Rattler running power options anytime soon. Like we said, we've said this week in, week out. We know the AFC is going to run through the Bills. They will be the powerhouse of the AFC. But we'll move on to the Detroit Lions beating the Cleveland Browns 34-10. Puts them to 3-1 on the season. I love watching Jahmyr Gibbs play. His touchdown run, I think, epitomizes exactly what he is. Nobody touches him. It's a 10-yard touchdown, but nobody touches him going into the end zone. I think that proves how elusive he is. He's able to be patient, wait for his blockers to develop, and then find the correct hole to get into the end zone. I think he is such a talented player. It's just this offense needs to operate around so many talented players that he's not going to get the 30 touches a game that in ways he deserves.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be a very cherry-picked stat, but I'd like to see touchdowns number of touchdowns untouched or something like that, just to see how often it is that he's just no one's getting close to him. It was an interesting game because the Browns, we keep saying it, this Browns defense is going to make it tough. The Lions pulled away with it in the end, obviously, and we kind of expected them to, but it was tight at the start of the game, and the D-line was making it difficult for Jared Goff, and they weren't running the ball fantastic in that first quarter, and David Monty was kept quiet, wasn't he? He was very quiet after such a big game last week. So the Browns could surprise people, and they're such a trap game this year, aren't they? Anyone going to Cleveland is gonna be thinking this isn't necessarily in the bag. We've got to stay prepared. But yeah, it was quite a good watch, I thought.
It was. I have a question: is Amon-Ra St. Brown the most reliable fantasy player of all time? Because he's missed one game in his entire NFL career. That's already massive, and it just feels like he is almost a banker for 15 plus points a week.
I don't hate it. I think the thing with Amon-Ra is there's a very rare huge ceiling, like we're talking 30 plus points, or I'd say 26 plus is a big time ceiling. and that's not going to happen crazy often. Although we saw it this week, we saw bang on 26 this week, I think, didn't we?
Yeah.
The thing is that, like you say, he's always available. He's always getting receptions as well. PPR leagues, they love him. And I think it was last year when I was number one pick in our league, and I went CMC, but my second choice was Amon Ra, and I wish I'd just gone with Amon Ra because
it's painful in ways because we're looking at it even the season just gone. Amon Ra goes at pick 6 to 8 in most leagues, and it just feels like instead of taking the risk on your Jamar Chases and banking on the health of Joe Burrow and Chase himself, Amon Ra is just going to get the ball no matter what. It just feels like that is the safer option from now on. And I feel like we're going into next season. Are we going to see him jumping up to be a top 5, top 3 pick in fantasy drafts?
There's a reason he doesn't miss games as well. He is tough as hell. He gets injured, but he's never hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does a very good job of it. Let's move on to the Patriots beating the Carolina Panthers 42-13, and I was quite surprised by this result. I thought the Panthers would actually go into Foxborough and give them a good game, but that was the polar opposite. Like we said, Drake May only completing 14 passes, but only attempting 17. So the 75%, like we said, continues. But that is efficiency. That's what you want from your starting quarterback. This looks like a Patriots team that can compete in the AFC in general.
Yeah, 100%. And this was one of those weird games. I think it was the Panthers game last week where I said if you look at those team stats of yards and first downs and whatnot, it doesn't look like the scoreline should have been the way it was. But the Patriots were efficient. I think that's the way to call it. They were very efficient. They spread the carries between the 3 running backs. Like I said, Drake May didn't have to throw the ball a ton, but they got people the ball. Stephon Diggs getting a 100-yard game in the Patriots uniform is really nice to see. And you know what's good as well? No New England fumbles after last week.
That's massive.
Great to see that.
Ramondre actually holding onto the ball is always an improvement. It does feel like Trevor Henderson's getting a bit more involved with the team, which is good. But we still see the snap share being more Ramondre Stevenson going forward. I'd give it a couple more weeks, and then we'll really see the shift, and we see Henderson be the featured back there. But yeah, I'm excited for this Patriots offense. It's sneaky good. We'll move on to the Giants beating the Chargers 21-18, and we need to talk about the man that is Jackson Dart.
Oh boy.
He gets his first career win on his first career start against the what were an undefeated LA Chargers team.
An undefeated team that we thought were flying, that we were saying top 5 team in the league. Giants, people are calling them a bottom 5 team in the league. They go and make the QB change. Can it provide a spark? And we saw a spark. We saw Jackson Dart doing it through the air, doing it on the ground. His touchdown run was awesome. My favourite play of the game was that 3rd and 1 where we see Cam Scatterbo go full force, head first into a block.
Headbutting players,
yeah. And then Jackson Dart gets stuffed in the middle. So what does he do? He stays on his feet. He goes around the outside. He dives his way through some contact for the first down. And, send the New York fans into a frenzy. They absolutely loved it. The entire Giants ownership was in attendance for that game, and he definitely impressed them. And it's definitely one of those things. It feels like a job-saving game for Brian Daboll.
Yeah, I think if he would have, let's say if he lost this game, I think the Saints would have been the do or die. But what I loved is, like you said, the owners in attendance. It shows the belief that this team have around a young quarterback, that being Jackson Dart. I love that the defense stepped up this week and actually, really put the offense in good positions. We obviously look at the turnover from Sexy Dexy, basically within the 10. Easy touchdown going forward there. Jackson Dart's rushing ability is obviously massive for this team. If they can lean on that a lot more, I'm excited to see what this team can do. And then you can't forget, Cam Scatterbo. All the credit's gone to the quarterback. Cam Scatterbo, almost what feels like 30 touches on the game, was always on the screen, whether that be lead blocking. We've all seen the picture of him walking off with, his numbers are basically black, and it's like this man played on turf. It looked like he played on grass. So give credit to him as well.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. I mean, he was one of those guys where you almost felt like, should he really be that graded that low as a rookie? But there were obviously concerns about like top end speed and whether he could really produce at an NFL level. But man, he's doing everything great. He's pass blocking well. He's run blocking well. He's doing a little bit of everything. Joe Alt getting carted off was a big concern.
That's big, yeah.
Latest on that was, I think they said high ankle sprain, but potentially not crazy serious, which is good news for the Chargers.
You could still see him missing a couple of weeks.
Oh,
with that,
yeah,
unfortunately.
he definitely will.
That now means they're missing 3 out of the 5 starting offensive linemen from preseason, which isn't ideal going forward, and it does raise question marks to how Justin Herbert will be able to survive in the pocket against elite defenses. You look at the pass rush that the Giants have, even last week at the Broncos. These are 2 good teams they've come up against, and I'm sure they'll have many teams that they play against with pass rushes like this. It does make me worry about the health of Justin Herbert going forward if we can't have our starting offensive lineman out there. I do want to give credit to Amarion Hampton. That's what we expect to see from a rookie runner. His first real start as well, which was really good. And obviously the resurgence of Quentin Johnston. Give that man some credit. Looking like a wide receiver 1 and about time.
Yeah, I think week 4 is a good point to say, yep, this guy's good. This guy's very good. Yeah. And he's turned it around. He's turned it around. We really thought this was a guy who was going to probably be finishing up his career anytime soon. And he's come out this year. He's looked like a legitimate wide receiver 1. And he's continuing to produce, which I think is awesome. I really thought, first week seemed like a fluke. 2 and 3, you're thinking, he's just on a hot streak. Hey, this could be a consistent thing for him going forward.
Could be waiver wire pickup of the season.
Could be, very much so.
I think he's up there. I don't think there'll be... Trey Benson could be if he starts turning up, but, Quentin Johnston might be that guy. Let's move on to the Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Eagles won 31-25. That makes Jalen Hurts. He hasn't lost a game in over a year now.
Wow.
I really thought the Bucs were going to bring this back.
Yep.
And if Baker doesn't throw the pick in the end zone, I do believe they would have brought this game back, because the Eagles went ahead so early, and it almost just looks like they turned the foot off the gas. They let this thing slide, but the Bucs, they didn't give up, and Emeka Ibuka and Bucky Irvin really started to carry this team, and I thought Baker was going to go 4 for 4 on comebacks.
Yeah, I mean, as it was coming towards it, I said to the guys I was watching the game with, I was just saying, hey, this is an opportunity. This is 4-0, 4 game-winning drives.
Yeah,
this could be phenomenal, but it wasn't to be, unfortunately. And I thought, the Eagles are... I don't know how we can talk about the Eagles' offense at this point, because phenomenal first half. 24 points in that first half. They looked electric. They're sharing the ball out. I don't think Jalen Hurts completed a pass in the second half. Is that right?
No, I honestly don't think he did. You look at, he had 9 attempts to AJ Brown and only completed 2 of them. That kind of sums it up of their efficiency passing.
Which brings me on to my next point, Miles. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but I might be on board with the Eagles trading AJ Brown.
There's a lot of... I think AJ Brown probably wants it at this point. He wants... he's a man that operates on stats and getting the touchdowns and things like that, and he's just not getting that. When Jalen Hurts, you look at him this whole season, hasn't thrown the ball downfield accurately at all. And that's quite a concern for the Eagles. This is a run-first team, and you're spending so much money on your 2 starting receivers. I don't mind the idea of trading AJ Brown.
Well, this is the thing. I think we can't give all the put all of it on Hurts, because I think a lot of it's to do with the new offensive coordinator as well. Yeah. He's not dialing up plays like Kellen Moore was. And we're seeing, like you say, a lot more run first, a lot of these more shorter passing and a very simplified route trees for these receivers.
It is, yeah.
AJ Brown, he could do so much more. And the Eagles could be thinking, if we can take away AJ Brown's contract and the investment and value we've got in him and put it elsewhere, this is already such a stacked team. But do we really need 2 top receivers? Could we do with 1 top receiver, fill in with a decent wide receiver 3 and move Devonta Smith up, move the depth chart up, and then go and invest AJ Brown, invest that into the secondary or maybe into a new pass. I don't know. But the point being that if they're not going to use him, there's value elsewhere that they could maybe hold on to.
I love the idea of them just stacking the pass rush and just making that the best force the NFL has. I love the idea of, you brought in John Mechie to be an impact in this offense, and that's not happening at the moment. So, promoting him up the depth chart is a fantastic idea. You obviously have Devonta Smith, who is, definitely on the higher tier of wide receiver 2s, pushing wide receiver 1 standards. So I like the idea of that. And I think in ways for AJ Brown, that's what he needs as well. He almost just needs a fresh start. And you look at, obviously, his time in Tennessee, he was fantastic. And then it kind of dipped towards the end. And that's when the trade happened to Philly. He then propelled himself to all-pro standards at Philly. And we're starting to see the decline again. And you just think, is it the right time now for him to move on? I think it might be. Let's talk about the Texans beating the Titans 26-0. Brian Callahan actually gave away play calling this week, and I think that is the worst offense I have ever watched in my time in the NFL.
Was
and
bad.
I've seen a wide receiver play quarterback for the Broncos. So
that's
that
second
kind of
worst, but this one's the worst, right? Yeah,
it was embarrassing.
It was bad.
I think Callahan's going to take those play callings right back after this week.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they're kind of clutching at straws here, really, the Titans, aren't they? We don't really know where they go next. Unfortunately, I like to think that when we get these teams first overall pick, it's not all doom and gloom, that we're going to see some sunshine coming through the clouds. But at the moment, it's black skies everywhere for the Titans. It's not looking good. It's a tough Texans defense, I get it, but man, it's not a good look. On the Texans side of the ball, though, player of the game, Woody Marks. Unbelievable from him to step up, just steal that RB1 job, it felt like, right under the nose of Nick Chubb. And, great in the receiving game, great in the running game. Pass blocking, he was doing a great job.
That's the big thing,
And, I've said this many times in this podcast, if you're a young running back, you want to win that starting role, you've got to be good at pass blocking. And he showed that off, and that's why he's getting these third down back roles, which is now, creeping into first down carries. So it's great to see him.
It's completely right. You look at the start of the season, it was almost like 90% snap share for Nick Chubb compared to Woody Marks. Obviously, there's no Joe Mixon at the moment. But you now look at last week. It was literally 50-50. And that's been increasing from week to week. And I would say going into next week, I would not be surprised if Woody Marks, he starts his first game. He's playing at a standard that can, lead a backfield. And I'd expect that going forward for the Texans in ways they need a new identity rushing the ball. And Woody Marks could be that guy.
It's funny. I kept seeing him trending upwards on fantasy, and I was thinking, what? Wait, what? Is he really going to have any sort of fantasy value? And then he came out this game, and there's some definite fantasy value there.
He is, yeah. He's a good waiver wire pickup for people that haven't got him, absolutely. We'll move on to the Rams beating the Colts 27-20. Should have been a lot closer. Adonai Mitchell deciding to throw the ball out the back of the end zone probably wasn't the smartest idea.
I feel for him, man. I really.
What I love is the fact that team meeting the next day came out, stood up in front of everybody and just said, "Look, that's on me. Take accountability for it. There's no point in hiding behind your mistakes." He's done that, and you know what? He actually played really well.
He did,
despite that. So it's agonising to think that you could have had a touchdown at the end of that game as well. So
he had it really, really rough because he obviously had the fumble, touchback. Next drive, that Jonathan Taylor long rushing touchdown that got called back because he had a holding penalty. And you really feel for him. That's back-to-back plays where he just, or back-to-back drives where, touchdown killing plays, flipped the script on the game. And then on the other side of the Colts, the defense sending out 10 players to guard Tutu Atwell's long touchdown. That just mental mistakes that just can't happen. These are big games. The Colts are on the cusp of something good.
Hey, yeah, they are.
They really are. And if they're pushing the Rams this hard, it says a lot that they are a serious team. We've seen teams in the past that start quite well in the early weeks, but they're really only playing poor teams, and then they get up against a real contender, and you say, okay, these guys actually aren't that good. But, pushing the Rams to a 7-point game in which there was a 14-point swing with the Taylor missed touchdown, the Adonai Mitchell missed touchdown, this is
once the game wrapped up, is what
it
feels
and
like. Yeah.
And it's tough for the Colts to take the loss, but I think it's good signs from this game. Good signs that they will be competitive going forward. I tell you what, Puka Nakua. I mean,
Oh,
I said it
hey.
earlier, but we just got to say it again.
Can we say something?
Yeah.
How close are we to start including him in the conversation with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase? Because
I feel
because
like he's,
he
oh yeah,
he is playing to a standard above both of them
he's
at this moment in
definitely
time.
this season. If we want to go, what have you done for me lately? Puka Nakua is the best receiver in the NFL. I'm saying it right now. But obviously, you've got Chase and Jefferson's history. Chase coming off the Triple Crown, and Chase does not benefit at all from Jake Browning,
He does not.
unfortunately. And Justin Jefferson, he's not really in a great QB situation himself. But Puka Nakua is so good because he just does everything.
Yeah, let's say he gets 2,000 yards. He's the first ever receiver to get 2,000 yards. Then what happens? Then obviously he is literally taken over the Cooper Cup role, and I think he's just done that perfectly. He can operate out of any position. Put him in the slot, he's gonna win inside. You put him outside, he's gonna beat you vertically. He's physical enough to get the jump ball. That's what you want from a receiver. That's someone that can do it all. If he gets 2,000 yards, there is no debate that he has to be number one, surely.
I think it's very easy to say, given what we've just seen this week and what we've seen over the last few weeks, and I don't want to sound like I'm just jumping to say something outlandish, but we could very easily see Nakua Triple Crown this season because of, like you said, he's taken on that Cup role. He's doing everything Cup did, everything that made Cup so amazing in that season, and we could see Nakua just replicate it and just go Triple Crown receiving. And like you say, could push on for a 2,000-yard season.
That'd be awesome.
The thing is, as well, is just he is just a bigger Cooper Cup.
He is.
He runs routes fantastic. I think Cup's probably a better route runner slightly, but Nakua's still got that. The thing that Nakua has is he's open even when he's not. He's so physical going up for those jump balls. That teardropper from Stafford down the left sideline was a fantastic throw, but fantastic catch because the defender's all over him, but it just doesn't matter. Just put the ball in space in front of him. He's going to go and get it.
Let's move on to the Jags beating the 49ers 26-21, and somehow these Jacksonville Jaguars are 3-1. I would not have predicted that at the start of the season.
Miles, how do you even grade the Jacksonville Jaguars? Like, if we were to do power rankings right now, where are they? Because
I just
3-1's a very good record.
Yeah,
San Fran were an undefeated team.
I know, but I just feel like they're the most middle of the road team in the NFL. I wouldn't push them above like 14. I feel like it's too hard because you've beaten the San Francisco 49ers, but this is probably the most banged up team in the NFL. They have the most injuries out of anybody. They're missing their elite pass rusher. They're missing their elite tight end. There's injuries at wide receiver. And we're putting excuses on it, but this team is still 3-1. How are they doing it? I don't know.
If you look at the San Fran depth chart, there's a whole lot of red Qs and Os and IRs because there's a lot going on and there are a lot of injuries. It feels like, it feels like even the guys that played this week weren't really healthy. Juwan Jennings hit an absolute shot in the end zone for that touchdown catch. Purdy, I feel like he's not quite 100% yet.
No, he's not.
It's a good job they've got CMC. It seems like he's the only one that's healthy, which is quite nice. He's obviously putting the team on his back, rushing and receiving. He's like 7th in the league in receiving yards, is it? Or he's like 7th, he'd be the wide receiver 7 in fantasy or something like that.
Yeah.
He's putting up numbers this year, that's for sure.
He's doing very well. I think for these Jags, we'll keep on the topic for the Jags.
Yeah.
I love the identity of the offense. Liam Cohen is a mastermind. I think he's done so well at operating. It's just, there's obviously the concerns of Brian Thomas drops and things like that. But what he's done for Travis Etienne, he's rejuvenated this man's career. He's looking like a total RB1 that's going to now have the big payday going into next season, which at this point he kind of deserves after the start that he's had this season. You look at their strength of schedule, it's tough for the next couple of games. You have the Chiefs, Seahawks, Rams. If they can get even 1 or 2 wins out of that, it's just lining up for later in the season. Their 2 games against the Colts is just going to be fantastic and must watch football.
Yeah, it's awesome when you look at in the last 5 weeks, in the last 6 weeks, they got 4 divisional games. Titans twice, Colts twice, and Titans twice is unfortunately not quite as exciting. We kind of wish it was the Texans instead, and then we could get like some real big divisional bouts, the guys who are really fighting for that division. But Colts, was it week 17 and week 14? Is it? Those 2 really big games to look forward to.
Let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Baltimore Ravens 37-20. Sam, 1-3. I didn't predict this in my
No one did.
wildest dreams. And you could be without Lamar Jackson going forward.
Well, to be fair, I say no one did. One of the things I said at the start of the year was that our season was so tough the first 6 weeks that we could easily be 3-3 into the bye week. So we're still on track.
Hey,
but I will say, I don't feel very confident about it. It's a lot of injuries. We see yesterday, Justin Madubuike is now out for the season.
That's a killer.
Which is
Nnamdi Madubuike, correction.
Sorry,
Nnamdi.
Absolutely. It's been so long since I've seen him in the field. Nnamdi out for the season. I said last week, how much of a difference maker he has in our run game. So huge loss there. Marlon Humphrey out for multiple weeks. Maybe that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. That is definitely a good thing.
But not just him. We're seeing we saw a bunch of guys go down in this game, and it's very worrying. Roquan Smith left the game, which brought Trenton Simpson back into the starting lineup, which was something I didn't want to see. I thought we'd see in the back of him. And the thing with Lamar missing time is one of the biggest things I noticed in pre-season was we don't have a good backup quarterback. Cooper Rush is not good enough. And now
I don't want to say I called here, but we did say this about 20 episodes ago I didn't think he was the right substitution to come in for Lamar Jackson when he was injured.
Yeah. And it's a shame.
He doesn't look great.
We're going to, he's got big games coming up. It's Texans this week. We're talking about a good defense. We're going to have to now, find a way to win. We've got some games to win. We're basically looking at being a wildcard team at this point, which is crazy considering how poor, with the Bengals being injured, the Browns are the Browns, the Steelers looking like division champs at the moment, which is unbelievable to think at the start of the season where we thought they were going downhill. They, at one point of the season, in preseason, they were starting old Will Howard at quarterback. Now,
Aaron Rodgers might be the playoff quarterback again.
Yeah, vintage Rodgers is back. So, AFC North's going to be one to watch in a bad way almost because we don't know where it's going to turn out. But as a Ravens fan, man, I'm feeling very glum about this week, and not just because of the game, but just because of the lack of confidence going forward. You know me, I'm quite optimistic with we'll figure it out, but it doesn't feel like we're figuring out the defense anytime soon. Zach Orr's, loads of people calling for his head. They're saying that he's, he needs to be, he needs to get going. And I think the bigger topic than that, Mars, is a take that's becoming. It was very popular at the time, and it's repopularized now. The Ravens. I'm not saying this was my opinion, but the more in hindsight tells you this, that maybe it should have been the case, but the Ravens shouldn't have let go of Mike McDonald to the Seahawks. They should have promoted him to head coach, let Harbaugh take a back seat in some sort of coaching assistant role, and then have McDonald get to stay and head that defense, that record-setting defense.
Mind it. I really don't mind it because I know, how long do you give a Super Bowl winning coach to then get your team back there? And I just almost feel like Harbaugh's just outstayed his time. And I hate, it's like losing. Obviously, it's not the same. But Sir Alex Ferguson, it was like, you've overstayed your time. Come on, let's go. And it feels Arsene Wenger.
I was going to say, if we're going to go on to English football, Wenger's probably the comparison. Isn't
but
it's
I
that
just
idea.
Feel like, now is that it might be time, and it's probably not the time now because I feel like you need a staff member that can then promote it. And Mike McDonald probably was the correct guy, but Zach Orr is just I don't think he's the right man for even the DC job, let alone that.
No, I think it's one of those situations where the Ravens love internal hires, always loved internal hires. So, if we're going to find our success for John Harbaugh, who's been head coach for so long now, it needed to come internally. Mike McDonald was the dream candidate. It has to be said. He, that season we're talking about a historical defense, and it's hard to let Harbaugh go because he means so much to the team, and as a personality, he's a culture guy, but in a very different sense to do you know
he's
what I mean?
Special teams coordinator, sort of he is. Yeah,
he is. But when we think about like Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni and the way that we call them culture guys because they get the team fired up and they want to fight for this guy. Harbaugh's a guy all the players love him. That he's like, it seems like he's like a father to everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like I'd be so sad to see him go out the door. But at the same point, it's a business. We need to win some games, and maybe McDonald keeping him on might have been the better move, because at the moment, we are talking. It's been 13 years since we won that Super Bowl, and we've had some success.
That's overstaying your welcome.
Exactly. Lamar's been more integral to that success than John Harbaugh has. And we talk about in between the Super Bowl and Lamar being drafted, there wasn't a whole lot going on in there really. So, big conversations for the Ravens coming over the next few weeks, and then going into the offseason next season. There's going to be some big conversations coming. Let's
just touch on the Chiefs quickly. I feel like that was the most typical Chiefs win. Non-existent run game from one dominant rusher. It was shared upon what felt like three players. Obviously Xavier Worthy getting involved, but Patrick Mahomes. It didn't have to be the long ball every single time. Although Tyquan Thornton and Xavier Worthy they can stretch the field quite easily. It's the dink and dunk passes just underneath either the secondary that just works so well for him. And if he can just continue that, that's the Mahomes that we expect to see. That's the Chiefs that we expect to see. And I'm starting to get worried already.
I want to nickname the Chiefs the frustration offense, because all it is frustration. As if you're a fan, if you're wanting the defense to win, you're watching Mahomes throwing the ball. Oh, look, that guy's wide open. Oh, look, this guy's open in space. Look at this, yards after catch, easy pitch and catch. It's just, they're so good at scheming everything. And they're getting rolling now. And it felt like those early weeks we were thinking, oh God, these Chiefs, 0-2. What is this the end of the Chiefs dynasty? No, they're absolutely rolling again. They got, the Jags next week, going to Jacksonville. I'm sure they'll be fine. Detroit the week after will be a big game. That'd be like a nice benchmark. We saw the early weeks of Chargers and Eagles where we thought, Chiefs don't look great, but I'm not sure they're there yet. By the time the Lions are in town, we're talking Rashee Rice back at that point, I want to say.
I think it will be, yeah.
So, they're getting the offense back to full strength. Oh, Chiefs again. Can't count them out.
They'll be right back up there.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to we'll quickly touch on the Bears Raiders. Obviously the Bears won 25-24, which came down to a blocked field goal. I want to make the case that Geno Smith's time needs to be up in Las Vegas. I'm fed up with it.
Rough.
It's
very rough.
I'm a Broncos fan. I don't like the Raiders, but I feel sorry for Raiders fans having to put through a quarterback that continues to throw games away for them. Geno Smith has had his time as an NFL quarterback, and I think it's now to go back to backup status. He cannot carry an NFL offense. He keeps throwing the ball. I know they have no offensive line. I know that, but it's time to move on.
Do we get excited about? I mean, it's Kenny Pickett, isn't it? Really.
Kenny Pickett, Cam Miller's there as well. I'd like to see him involved. Well, this is what I was
going to say.
That's Brady's project. If he has any right on the ownership, I'd like to see it involved.
Yeah.
All that matters is you've got Ashton Jenney behind you, and if he changes his stance, and if he's upright in the backfield, it's going to be a good game.
I don't get the stance. like everyone's saying, he's changed his stance.
I just think it's the
Bears
run defense.
But exactly. That was the main thing. But it was interesting to see him have such a good game.
Right, let's go on to the most confusing game of this week in the NFL. It was Green Bay Packers versus the Dallas Cowboys, 40-all in a tie in what the Green Bay Packers almost threw away in the last second of the game if it wasn't for a lucky swat from the DB. I think if that ball flew out the back of the end zone, it would have ended in a loss.
Second, that's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
And Jordan Love is one lucky SOB in my opinion.
It's weird because this is a game of the year, but it's not going to get called that because it ended in a tie, and that was a very big conversation point coming out of this game. Everyone's saying we need to get rid of ties. We can't have ties in the NFL. I don't hate it. I think it'd be good if they had some sort of tiebreak. I think maybe if you finish OT and then you go into second OT and you go to the college rules of like 2 points and then go from the 5 from the 10.
I would just love an endless game. Just keep going, like the college rules. You have like a seventh overtime. Put the ball at the 25. You've got a chance to get in. If you don't do it, give the other team a go. If they put up 3 points, they win. But if it goes back and forth, it's entertainment. It's an entertainment league. It needs that excitement. This change has been needed for a long, long time. Talking about the game, though, Dak Prescott proves that he is an elite quarterback. It doesn't matter if he doesn't have CD Lamb. George Pickens steps up. He was fantastic, but he was getting the ball to everybody. I think Dak Prescott really deserves some credit this game. Standing up with the big ones. We've spoken about how good the Green Bay Packers defense has been all season. He sliced them up. It was a really good performance from them, and they have a run game. Who would have thought that, we've said it before, Javonte Williams, you were quite high on him going there, but I was quite concerned, but he turned out to be an RB1. I'm really liking the Dallas Cowboys, and they're 1-2-1,
I can't believe that the Cowboys managed to put up 40 in a game full stop, but against this Packers defense, no less. The run game is... We thought this was the worst running back room in football, didn't we, coming into the season? But, like we say, Javonte Williams is producing. George Pickens, I'm glad he's not a Steeler, because now I can tell you my real feelings about him. The man's awesome. He's unbelievable. He's really so good. Dominant. He just looks untouchable. And the way he gets these contested catches, and he just gets up and he's just like, yeah, of course I did that. You thought I wasn't going to catch that ball?
I'm that guy.
He's him. Yeah, exactly. It's unbelievable. But, Jake Ferguson put in another nice game. Go to the other side of the ball. Josh Jacobs with a lovely game. And Jordan Love, I feel like he's making this bit of a habit. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, especially against the Cowboys.
Yeah,
this is a Jordan Love style game. He's being safe with the ball. And it's just great to see.
I love, the amount of assets they have on offense as well, the Green Bay Packers. You look at how good Josh Jacobs is at running the ball. Romeo Doubs stepping up this week, obviously 3 touchdowns. Matthew Golden, despite probably the biggest hit I've seen on a punt return, it was like he wanted to be Kevontae Turpin from last season, the spin move in the return, and then
this could look good.
Yeah. Oh my God, the noise that came out with that was brutal.
I was just going to say the best thing about that as well was it like the first play of offense as well. He got drilled again.
Yeah,
poor guy took like back to back.
Like welcome to the league, rookie. Like they have that.
He got up after the second one like,
I need a break. I want to make the case though. This might be outrageous. I think Tucker Kraft is the best tight end in the NFL. I think he's the best. He is so, you look at Brock Bowers is probably the best at the moment, but he's injured. He's coming off an injury. He doesn't have the support of a Jordan Love throwing him the ball. If you look at production wise, and Tucker Kraft was so unlucky, he should have had 2 touchdowns, but got tackled at the one. I think he is so damn good and so underappreciated in the NFL. I really love watching Tucker Kraft.
Miles, I want to say no, but it is a bit, and I've said it once this episode already. I feel like I've never said it once in this entire pod, and now we're going twice in one episide. What have you done for me lately? And Tucker Kraft lately has been balling, hasn't he? He's been fantastic, and I think he's tied 3rd for receiving yards in the league with Brock Bowers amongst tight ends, obviously. Tight ends, I think as a position, they haven't been standout this year. If we want to talk about, the standout guys of old, your Travis Kelce's, who's, he's playing all right, but he's nothing big. George Kittle's injured. Mark Andrews has been near non-existent in games. So it's about time that one of these, outside looking in tight end steps up. And, the only real, like you said, Brock Bowers, but he hasn't been quite as, stand out as he was last year. Trey McBride is consistent.
Yeah, Trey McBride's right up there.
And he's still there. But, I think Tucker Kraft, again, as we're talking about tight ends, we can't just look at the receiving yards, because look at the work he does in the run game. He's still
I think that's what wins it. You look at the amount of times that Brock Bowers is lined up in the slot, and because I think Brock Bowers is the better route runner, and he is physically the better receiver. But as an overall, I think Tucker Kraft is a better tight end. Certainly at the moment, Brock Bowers is going to come out and have a 200-yard game next week, because I've said this, but I really do believe that Tucker Kraft is just disrespected throughout the league. And you look at the players that were on the fringe of being good tight ends, like TJ Hawkinson, like Sam Laporta, players like that. Tucker Kraft's exceeded that, and he's now in that upper echelon category. So I love watching him play, and he's a very good player.
Unfortunately, though, I'll have Kraft second in the league as tight ends, because Harold Fannin is obviously number one.
I really thought you were going to say Brock Bowers, but I would, I appreciate the Brock Bowers, but Harold Fanning, number one.
Harold Fannin's that guy. Yeah.
We'll quickly touch on the Dolphins and the Jets. 27-21 to the Dolphins. The Jets almost brought it back. Fumble at the end, obviously, from Braylon Allen, throwing the game away. And the Jets continue to shoot themselves in the foot. It should have been a Jets win.
Shoot themselves in the foot. Did you hear what Breece Hall had to say?
Well, yeah. Breece Hall took it to the next extreme.
He had a mad comment to say about that one. But I suppose he's right. They're beating themselves a lot of the time. It's been this way for years. It's tough to see, especially against the Dolphins, where, like we said, this was 2 winless teams. One team could go home happy knowing they could get the season started. And I thought the Jets would have it in the bag, especially with Tyreek going off injured. But Jets couldn't get it done. Again, they just couldn't finish the game, which is, it's been something we've seen for a while now.
About young receivers, and like Garrett Wilson is just so, I'd love for him to be traded. Just if you put him in the Cowboys offense or the Packers offense, he would be like a top 5 receiver in the league. He's so damn good, and his touchdown line at the start of the season was 4.5. I think he's already on 4.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah,
he's been so damn good. Or is he already on 5? He's just been so amazing all season. He's on 3.
He's on 3, yeah.
Yeah. So, but he's going to get 4.5.
Yes,
easily this season. And I just think put him in a good offense, man, and he'd be right up there with the very best.
Can I just say as well, the best thing about that touchdown, there's nothing better than a throw that's a great catch, but a great throw as well. If we're talking about a pinpoint throw from Fields, he can still throw the ball. It's not just a running back. But if we want to talk about rushing ability, fourth down, and he's having to reverse field. Oh, we're going to start calling reverse Fields, aren't we?
Because that was exciting to watch, man. That was so exciting to watch. And that's what he brings to an offense. Yeah. And I think in ways they need to use that more. He's so electric with his feet, and that should be the identity of the offense. It should be a run-first team. You have 2 elite, I wouldn't say elite, but 2 very good running backs behind you. Let's use them. Let's use Fields' legs, and then let's stretch the field with Garrett Wilson. But I still think the Jets won't finish last in the division, despite them losing to their division rival.
Yeah, there's going to be this is actually, we always talk about the guys at the top of the league being the big battles to watch, because obviously they should be, but this one's almost an interesting battle to see where they can pick up wins, where the Jets and Dolphins will, win games and keep themselves away from that number 1 pick and bump the win total up a little bit. Last thing I wanted to note, Miles, Garrett Wilson led the Jets in receiving, but who was second in receiving for the Jets?
Mason Taylor, yes.
Great to see him getting on the box score.
Talking about tight ends, resurgence of tight ends. That's what we want to see. There was a lot of second-round tight ends this year. Harold Fanning obviously even slid a bit further than that, but let's see some of these younger guys start taking their shape. Like Elijah Arroyo. That's what we need. We need more of that, and Mason Taylor certainly setting the tone there. We'll finish off with the Broncos beating the Bengals 28-3. Just a convincing win for the Broncos. I think that's what they needed. We're just talking about confidence boosters going into a tough stretch of games for them. Like we've said, Jake Browning's not the answer for a quarterback there, but I don't feel like the Bengals are in a position to go and trade for a quarterback. I feel like they almost just need to take the hit on this season. They need a reset. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Zach Taylor's last season. I want to see an almost just reset. Let's have everybody healthy, go into next season and hit the ground running. I think that's what they need.
Yeah, it feels like it, because this was a disaster from the start, wasn't it? It's funny, I saw the score when I woke up, went to watch the game, and I was like, oh, field goal already? Oh, so the Bengals go scoreless for 3.5 quarters. It's not a good sign. But yeah, they're just struggling on all fronts. They can't get Jamar Chase the ball. Higgins, we're talking last season where Higgins went crazy against the Broncos. And now this year, without Joe Burrow, he's getting 3 catches. So it's not good news. Chase Brown's still not getting, Chase Brown's still getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. He's still not able to find those rushing lanes that were, paying dividends for them last year. It's just, it's rough on all fronts for the Bengals. We knew the defense was going to be bad, but the offense is bad. So, this is a team really going to be struggling while they wait for Joe Burrow to get healthy.
I mean, Chase Brown's averaging 2.3 yards a carry. That says it all for this offense. I think that sums it up. You need to be averaging over, I'd say you need to be averaging 4 yards a carry as a running back in the NFL. There's just no production there. The offensive line is just not good enough. They've spent money in places they didn't need to spend money. I just feel like this team needs a fresh slate. It needs a fresh slate, but you've got the pieces of such an elite team. It's just you have to have Joe Burrow there. You look at Jake Browning's accuracy. There were so many times where T. Higgins was one-on-one against Riley Moss again. Should have easily had the jump ball over him. Just so inaccurate. And I almost just feel sorry for the Bengals fans watching that, because there is no hope there. The Broncos just... It wasn't a perfect, clean win, but there was just no challenge from the Bengals to make this an entertaining Monday night game. I stayed up for it. It just was like, I watched that knowing we were going to win, unfortunately. But yeah, I would have much preferred a closer game, but I think the Broncos needed that just for a confidence booster.
Yeah, I would say I feel sorry for the Bengals fans, but if we're going to suffer, they can suffer with us.
Right, let's move on to Week 5 predictions, Sam. We'll start off Thursday Night Football. Niners-Rams for the lead in the NFC West. Who are you taking, Sam?
Great game here. Give me those boys in LA. They look great at the moment.
The correct decision. I'm going to take the Rams, and I think we're now going to see the Rams and Seahawks fight for this division title going forward. We have our first London game of the season, the Browns versus the Vikings. Who are you taking here, Sam, in Tottenham?
It's going to be a defensive slug, isn't it? It feels like. I tell you what, Miles, I'm going for the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to say it. This defense is good.
I'm tempted to, but I am just going to take the Vikings.
I've got to say as well, if Kenneth Gainwell's running the ball well, Quinton Judkins, give me a 100-yard game from him.
Yeah, not a bad player at all. I think they've got a nice pick there in the second round. I'll take the Vikings, though. Raiders versus the Colts. Give me the Colts here, Sam.
Yep, give me the Colts.
Giants versus the Saints. It is Dart's first away trip.
He'll be fine.
I am going to take a Saints win.
Ooh,
yeah,
how dare you?
I know. It's funny because I said last week that I don't think Dart will win this week. He'll beat the Saints, and I just think it'll be the opposite. The confidence will just be too high, and the Saints will turn up for once.
Yeah, I mean, no Malik Neighbours is such a big blow for them.
It is, yes. But I'm not doubting that Dart. Jackson Dart can run for 100 yards.
He could do.
Cowboys Jets, Sam. I'm going to take the Cowboys. It's in MetLife.
It is in MetLife. Pray for everyone's health. I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
I'm actually going to take the Jets. I'm going to go double upset. I'm going to go double upset.
There's bound to be some.
Tell you what, I'm going to go triple upset because give me the Broncos over the Eagles next. They haven't lost in over a year, Sam. It's about time they lose.
Oh, good luck with that one. I'll go with the Eagles. I tell you what, though, could be a good game because you've got a nice, good game. We always think about the Eagles, stifling defense and an offense going to control the football. So if you can stop them from scoring, keep them to field goals, and then get yourself down the field and nick a few touchdowns away, you could make it interesting.
Just looking at the spread for the last 3 games, Giants are actually 1.5 underdogs against the Saints. Would you believe? The Cowboys are 2.5-point favourites, and the Eagles are 4-point favourites. So I've only taken the under. Okay. You've actually taken an underdog in one, that being the Giants. So yeah, we'll move on to what a tough one. Panthers versus the Dolphins. My goodness, if anyone watches this, fair play. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers.
I've talked rubbish on the Dolphins the entire year, and with that being said, I'm picking the Miami Dolphins because the Panthers look poor, man.
Panthers
don't look good. Dolphins big week, it's gonna be tough without Tyreek, but let's just get the ball in A-Chan's hands and let them go to work.
That's what they need to do. Texans Ravens. We don't know who's starting. We really don't.
We don't.
It is currently Baltimore 3.5-point favourites.
I think Lamar's injury is it's probably his hamstring injury, so it's anywhere between like very serious, missing a majority of the season, to we'll see him.
I think
he'll
play.
And he'll be back.
I really think he'll just play this week.
I wonder, but I almost think that with the state of our team, we can't go.
You can't go 1
player
and 4
down,
but you can't go 1 and 4. I'm taking the Ravens here. I just am.
Oh God, I can't believe I'm actually debating picking the Texans here. I just think
and this is great. Also for listeners, Sam's housemate is a Texans fan, so I'd love to be a
he's not here this weekend.
Is he not? Oh, gutted.
Disgraceful.
Right, I'm taking the Ravens. Are you taking the Texans?
Can I say Rush starts as Texans, Lamar starts?
I'll let you have that. Titans Cardinals, Sam.
Can I just-
Oh,
one
are
more
you
note?
debating it again?
No, one more note on the Texans Ravens game. We're going to see the movable object versus the stoppable force, and that is the Texans O line versus the Ravens D line. It's going to be like watching.
They're just going to stand there and look at each other. They're not going to rush.
Like, well, there's no point in us doing anything because we're both crap at it.
Right, Titans Cardinals. I'm taking the Cardinals.
Give me the cards. Yeah.
Bucks Seahawks. I'm going to take the Seahawks.
Big game. Give me the Buccaneers.
Ooh, we're going
into Seattle.
Lions Bengals. It's the easiest Lions win ever.
Yeah.
They're 10.5-point favorites.
They could put up 50. Yeah.
They could. Chargers Commanders.
I wonder if James Daniels is back. Yeah, he's still
JD.
questionable, but I will go Chargers. I think.
Yeah, it's in so far. I think I'm going to check the Chargers. Patriots Bills on Sunday night. Give me the Bills.
These are always fun games. But
they are.
Yeah, I'll go with the Bills as well. I don't think it'll be convincing. It'll be just like last week, maybe tight throughout the first half, and then Bills just pull away in the second.
And then finally Monday Night Football. Chiefs Jags. Who are you taking, Sam?
The Chiefs are back. Unfortunately, they're going to get rolling.
Chiefs are back, absolutely. Chiefs are back indeed. Give me your random touchdown scorer for this week, Samuel.
My random touchdown scorer, which I really should start preparing because it's becoming a bit of a joke at this point. Give me.
I've got one. Oh, you've got one. I've just saw the start.
Malik Washington, Miami Dolphins.
No, that's a good pick because obviously Tyreek being out, he's going to step up. I am going to go for a man that dropped one this week in the end zone. Give me Brandon Cooks to score this week. I've got two right. Hang on, can we say it?
I've got two of these right. I swear you're three straight. So Jackson Dart obviously was this last week, and you got that right. And off the top of my head, the week before that
Jatavian Sanders.
Was that? I see. I feel like you said, or maybe you've had three right this season.
I might have had three right this season.
I seem to remember you at some point we commented on how you had two straight. So if you're now three for, but then that would be 3 for 4. So did you go 1, 2?
I think I've gone.
Got
yeah, that's the way that it's gone. So
outstanding stuff as usual from the FDT boys. I'm taking credit.
Hey, if it keeps going, I'll be buzzing with that. I'll be buzzing with that. Right, that wraps up this week's episode of 4 Down Territory. Make sure you're following us on all of our socials, FDT_podcast. More video podcasts on the way, and we'll see you all in the next one.